Hi everyone, welcome to Nano Elan and back to Java for Selenium tutorial series. In our previous session, we have learnt about how to use break and continue statements in Java programming. In today's video, I'll talk about how to use nested loops in Java and also how to print different star patterns. Before that, make sure to subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon to get notified whenever new content is uploaded. For clear information along with the practical demo, please watch this video completely till the end. Let's get started. What are nested loops in Java? A nested loop is an inner loop that appears in another outer loop body. Here, the inner loop or the outer loop can be of any type, whether it can be a for loop, do while loop or a while loop. For instance, an inner loop can be a while loop, while an outer loop can be a for loop. Also, both the inner loop and outer loop can also be the same. That is why the nested loop is also called as loop inside loop. Let us try to understand about the syntax for nested for loop. Here the outer loop starts with for loop with initialization, condition and increment operator followed by the code statements. Within the outer loop, the inner loop will begin. Starts with the for loop, initialization, condition followed by the increment operator, and within the inner loop it has a set of code statements. Then we'll end the inner loop first and then the outer loop. Now let us try to understand how to print star patterns using nested for loop. In today's practical demo, I have considered these two star patterns. This is the first star pattern and this is the second one. Let us try to understand this, how to print the star patterns using Java programming. For this, you need to open the Eclipse. I have opened my Eclipse and I have created a new class, say nested loop demo. Now in this practical demo, let us try to understand how to print this star triangular pattern using Java programming. To print this pattern, we need to start with the outer loop by declaring and initializing a variable I and starting the outer loop from I is equal to 0 till I less than or equal to 5. And also followed by incrementing the I value. If we use only the outer for loop to print this pattern, only the first line gets printed like as highlighted here. For printing the complete pattern, we need to make use of another inner loop within an outer for loop. For this, I have declared and initialized another variable j in another for loop starting from 0 and I continued the inner loop till j less than or equal to I. Here the inner loop will be executed for 6 times till I less than or equal to 5. That is, the outer for loop will start from I equal to 0, it enters into the inner loop, and for j equal to 0, it checks for 0 less than or equal to 0. Then the inner loop statement is executed and it prints the first star. Now for I equal to 0 and for j equal to 1, it checks for 1 less than or equal to 0, which is false. Then it exits from the inner loop. Now the next iteration, for I equal to 1 and for j equal to 0, it checks for 0 less than or equal to 1. Then since it is true, the inner loop statement is executed. Then it prints the first star value followed by space. Now for I equal to 1 and for j is equal to 1, it checks for 1 less than or equal to 1. The inner loop statement is executed and prints star space star. That is, the second line gets completely printed. The third iteration of the outer for loop, that is for I equal to 1 and j equal to 2, it checks for 2 less than or equal to 0, which is false. Then it exits from the inner loop. Now in the third iteration of the outer loop, for I equal to 2 and j equal to 0, it checks for 0 less than or equal to 2, which is true. Then the inner loop statement gets executed and it prints the star followed by space. Now in the second iteration, for I equal to 2 and j equal to 1, it checks for 1 less than or equal to 2. Then the inner loop statement is executed and prints star space star. That is, the second line gets completely printed. Now in the third iteration of outer loop, for I equal to 2 and j equal to 2, checks for 2 less than or equal to 2, which is true. Then the inner loop statement gets executed and it prints star space star space star. That is, it prints the third line. Now for I equal to 2 and j equal to 3, it checks for 3 less than or equal to 2, which is false, and it exits from the inner loop. Similarly, this continues for 6 iterations till I less than or equal to 5. In the last iteration, it prints the complete star pattern. Now I am running this program. Let us see how this works. You see that the star pattern 1 has been successfully printed. Now let us try to understand how to print the second star pattern. Like in case of the first star pattern, to print this pattern we need to start with the outer loop by declaring and initializing the variable starting from I equal to 0 till I less than or equal to 5, followed by incrementing the I value. Here if we use only the outer for loop to print this pattern 2, only the first line gets executed, which is as highlighted. But to print this complete pattern, we need to make use of another inner for loop within the outer for loop. For this, I have declared and initialized a inner for loop with another variable j starting from 0, and I continued the inner loop till j less than or equal to 5. Each time I am printing a star followed by space. After exiting from the inner loop, after 6 iterations, by iterating the inner loop till the condition j less than or equal to 5 is true, that is, here the inner loop will be executed for 6 times till j less than or equal to 5. Let us try to understand how this works. For I equal to 0 and for j equal to 0, it checks for 0 less than or equal to 0. Then the inner loop statement is executed and it prints star followed by space. Now the j value gets incremented, then j becomes equal to 1, that is for I equal to 0 and j equal to 1, it checks for the condition 1 less than or equal to 5, it prints another star followed by space after the first star. Now it prints star space followed by star space. So this continues till j less than or equal to 5, then it prints the first line in the first iteration of outer loop. At the end of last iteration, we can see the complete pattern gets printed. Let us try to see the result by running this program. You can see the pattern has been successfully printed here. That's all for today's video. These are some useful URL links. Thanks for watching my video. Happy learning. Have a good day.